Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. From whichever part of the world you are tuning in, my name is Maruti Makwana, and I'm back with another topic which is very exciting, very important for you if you are learning AI and want to develop applications or AI agents in this year, which is 2025. Now, today we are going to understand one topic which is hot and I can say hottest topic of the AI trend, and that is MCP, which stands for Model Context Protocol. Now, we are going to see what this thing is, how it works, why should we use it, and why enterprises are really focusing on MCP a lot. So, let's get started. The first obvious question is what is MCP? And if that is your question, as I said, it stands for a full form which is Model Context Protocol. And it is an open source standard which is developed by Anthropic, the same company which is behind Claude. Now, this is basically an open source standard for connecting AI applications to external systems. Now, we know when you're developing generative AI applications or AI agents, we have to integrate that application with some of the other external systems. Basically, it gives an AI agent a consistent way of connecting with tools, services, and data. And we know without tools, services, and data, AI agent is not really very useful. No matter where they live or how they build, MCP is going to allow you to connect your AI agents with this kind of external systems, which can be tool, which is providing some additional functionality into the agent, which is because of that, it can take actions, which can provide some kind of a data, and that data is going to be used as a context, or maybe it's going to be used for the memory. And then same way, it can also allow you to associate with the services like an API, which your AI agent can actually invoke, and then it can do the meaningful work based on that. Now, because of MCP, you will be able to associate all of these things with your AI agents. Now, using MCP, AI applications like Claude or ChatGPT can connect to data sources. And it can be a local file, it can be a databases. Now, very soon we are going to see this, that we can have a local MCP server as well as we can have a remote MCP server as well. And I'll show you how to configure them. But basically, it can be any kind of data sources, tools like search engine or calculators, which is providing some logic, and even workflows, which are basically configured for the specialized prompts. All of this enable them to access key information and perform tasks, and that's what agents do. Now, I'm sure you're familiar with AI agents and agentic AI systems. If you're not familiar with that, I strongly recommend you to go through our video, which is giving you a clear differences between Gen AI, AI agents, and agentic AI systems. I surely recommend you to check out that video first before proceeding this one. Now, there is one particular line which I've taken from the official site of Anthropic as well, which is saying that if you're thinking about MCP, then think like it's a USB-C port for your AI applications. Same like your USB-C, which is providing a standardized way to connect your electronic devices, which can be your computer, which can be your phone, and then it's basically same kind of work MCP is also doing. It provides a standardized way to connect AI applications to the external system. And this standardized way was much needed actually, because now we have moved to that era where one single agent is not going to be enough. We need multiple agents and we need orchestrated multiple agents. Now, all of these things requires data, requires external tools, and MCP is actually connecting all these dots. If I go a little bit in depth into MCP, then this is something which you need to understand. Now, one obvious question which people ask me is that before MCP also, we used to use tools and APIs and some kind of a logical things with our agents. Why can't we still use traditional APIs? Well, you can use it. You can use traditional APIs and connect your agents with that. But before MCP, each of those actions will require a unique API, some kind of a custom logic, and developers' time to glue it all together. Basically, your development efforts were really high. Also, managing and maintaining multiple APIs and multiple agents is a painful job. MCP is bringing one standard for all tools. So as you can see here, this is a clear differences which are visible here, which is showing you that setup wise also MCP is better. Flexibility wise, it is super dynamic and adaptable compared to the traditional APIs which were fixed and tool specific. When you want to reuse, traditional APIs were hard to reuse across multiple agents. While this is one of the biggest benefit that using MCP, you can easy to reuse those tools and different data sources everywhere. It provides scalability because it's actually built for scale. It has agent compatibility. So you need custom logic per tool in traditional APIs, while in this case, it's going to work out of the box with schema. And then that schema is going to be allow you to do the compatibility with the agent. And you have something which is called tool discovery, which is basically instead of connecting your tools manually, it has an automatic mechanism associated with this in real time, which can actually figure out which tool is going to be useful for that. And it is capable enough to discover that tool and use that tool. Basically, with MCP, it's a plug and play agent which can send structured requests to any MCP compatible tool. And there are a lot of compatible tools which are available. You can get results back in real time and even chain multiple tools together. So sometimes to complete a complex task while using some kind of patterns like planning design pattern. Now, when you're dealing with this kind of patterns, you have to achieve a complex goal by properly planning and execution of multiple tools. In this kind of design patterns, you can use MCP, which is basically allow you to chain multiple tools together, and then it's not going to require to need for a specific ahead of time kind of thing. So basically, it's not need to know what exactly thing which is required. You can connect the chaining kind of a mechanism, and you can plan the step-by-step execution of the task so that at the end you can achieve the goal. Now with this also, if you're not familiar with planning design pattern, then I strongly recommend you to check out our design pattern videos, which are basically covering a couple of useful agentic design patterns. And you can check out that. Now, right now, if you understand that this is something which is a plug and play kind of a USB-C port for all your agents, then let's get a little bit more depth into understanding architecture of MCP. Now, MCP has multiple components which we need to understand. And from now onwards, I request if you're watching this video really seriously, then try to make a note of these terms. It's very important. We have something which is called MCP host. Now, as you can see in this diagram, MCP host, which is on the left side, is the AI powered app. Basically, your host, or what you call MCP client, is basically that application which is your AI application which you want to associate with this. For example, it can be a Cloud desktop or an IDE or maybe another tool which is acting as an agent, or maybe any agent which you have developed using Azure AI Foundry or with any other tool. This is going to be your AI agent or a client application, basically. And that's what you're going to call MCP client. At the right side of this, you can see you have multiple MCP servers. You can have one, you can have multiple. Now, this host, which is basically your MCP client, is going to connect to multiple MCP servers, and each one of them are exposing a different tool or resources. Now, obviously, that's the reason we have multiple MCP servers. Maybe one server is providing some data from some local database. Maybe another one is actually providing from another local data source, which is just used maybe internally through the organization. And that's why we have configured two different MCP servers with two different kind of configurations. Maybe you have a third MCP server which is combinedly providing some data from some remote data servers. Basically, that's going to invoke some APIs. It's available on the internet, maybe publicly, maybe securely after some authentication. But the point is that's a remote MCP server which is there. So you can have local MCP server, you can have remote MCP server, and almost all of the servers are basically going to provide those tools and data which is required for your MCP client, which is nothing but agent. I request you to please do not get confused by the terms. As I said, MCP client is nothing but your generative AI application or AI agent. Same way, your MCP server is basically that configuration which allows you to connect with the local or remote data sources, and it allows you to associate that data with your MCP client. It's basically bridge between these two things. Some servers are going to access local resources like a file system, databases on your computer. And yes, you can do this thing even in your computer as well. So maybe your agent is running anywhere, but you want to treat your computer as a local MCP server. You can keep your data inside that and you can connect with that. Or maybe you can have some other servers which can reach out to a remote resources like API or a cloud services on the internet. In the same video, just stay tuned. I am going to show you how you can configure your remote services or remote MCP server. We have a separate lab also, but there are a couple of websites which are basically giving you this kind of ready-made remote servers which are available. You can utilize those remote servers and then you can add on your data. You can customize that thing, which is also possible. Now let's talk about each one of these components step by step. Now you have seen the architectural diagram, so I hope you will refer this thing as a reference sometimes. Leftmost was MCP Client. In the middle, you were having MCP Servers, and on the right side, you were having local or remote databases. Now, let's start with MCP Server component. As it is mentioned here, MCP Server is like a smart adapter for a tool or an application. It knows how to take a request from AI, like maybe get today's sales report. So it understands automatically and it translates into a commands that tool can understand. Now, if you have ever developed any AI agent, and if you have associated custom functions or Azure functions kind of things with AI agent, you understand that invoking a function is the smartest thing which AI agent can do. And it can automatically invoke the functions according to that. Same way here also, it understands what exactly we need to do based on the request, and then it's going to allow you to execute the specific commands with that. For example, let's say you have a GitHub MCP server, which is available on the separate URL. I will share it with you. And this server might turn list my open pull request into a GitHub API call. It's going to make an API call. Based on it, it's going to get the response. And that response is going to be converted into a proper completion kind of a process through an LLM. Same way, maybe you have a file MCP server in your local computer, which might take and save the summary as a text file, and it's going to write it into your desktop. So basically, that's going to take the summarization of your emails or maybe your some other notes which you have taken, and then it's going to put it into your desktop as a separate notepad file. Or maybe you have a YouTube MCP server which could transcribe video links on demand. That can be another MCP server. Now, as you can see right now, maybe my first and the third MCP server will be the remote one. And maybe the middle one is going to be my local MCP server, which is storing the data into my desktop. Depends upon the requirement, you can use local or remote MCP servers. Now, MCP servers also tell the AI what they can do. Basically, that is a term called tool discovery, because if you have multiple things, what exactly it has to do, it's going to be smart enough to understand that. It interprets and run commands. Basically, it can execute those tasks. It formats the result the AI can understand, and it can handle errors and give meaningful feedback whenever required. All of these things were actually missing in the normal generative AI applications or the traditional chatbots. Now, AI agents are capable to do this thing, and MCP server is also supporting that in a full way. After MCP servers, let's focus on MCP client. As I said, this is your generative AI application or an AI agent. So on the other side, MCP client is living inside the AI assistant or an app like Claude or Cursor or ChatGPT or Copilot or maybe your own custom AI agent. When the AI wants to use a tool, it goes through the client and talk to the matching server. Maybe you have multiple servers and it's going to associate that which one is going to be required for that. For example, we have an examples of Cursor and Claude here. So Cursor can use a client to interact with your local development environment, possible. Or maybe Cloud might use it to access files or read from a spreadsheet. And maybe the client handles all the back and forth, sending requests, receiving results, and passing them to AI is also something which can be done by client. Now this is a client side one, so literally you can do whatever you want to do in that. Now, from server and client we have seen. Now let's talk about the MCP protocol itself, because this is that particular part which is keeping everything in sync. This is that MCP protocol which defines how the client and the server will communicate. Basically, this is that thing which is invented and what the message looks like, how the actions are described, and how the results are going to be returned. Basically, everything which is associated with that process from request to response is actually taken care by MCP protocol. It is super flexible because it can run locally, maybe between your AI and computers app. It can run over the internet between AI and an online tool. It can use structured formats like JSON, so everything stays clean and consistent. And thanks to this shared protocol, the AI agent can connect with the new tool, even one it's never seen before, and it still understands how to use it. So you don't need to explain that this tool is for this purpose and this is how you have to use it. Your AI agent will be smart enough to understand that, and even if the newly agent is provided into this, or newly created tool is provided into this, your agent will be smart enough to understand how to use that tool. And that's something which is amazing. Now, so far, just to do a quick recap, you have seen MCP host, which is basically MCP client, then you have MCP server, then you have MCP protocol. What is missing in this? Well, let's put a final dot, which is actually services. Basically, when we talk about services, services are nothing but real apps and data. This is the last part of this puzzle. If you understand services, these are the actual tools or data sources which your AI wants to use. So it can be an API which you have developed in your project or organization. It can be some kind of a database. It can be some file system which is provided by some particular on-premise data center, or maybe your local computer. Any of these things will be counted as services. It is something which is a real-time applications which you have configured or you have developed, and it can be some data which you want to provide. These could be some local files on your device, as I said, or a folder or an application running locally, or it can be a remote cloud database, some SaaS tool, or some web APIs. MCP servers are basically the gateway to the services, and it can handle access securely and reliably. So basically, your authentication, your authorization, your governance, everything is going to be taken care by MCP servers, undoubtedly. So if you have questions about security in your mind, don't worry about that. Also, I'm just adding one last note in this because we mostly deal with Copilot, Microsoft Azure AI related things. So there's a note here that Microsoft Copilot Studio, which is basically a low code, no code kind of environment for developing agents, is also now supporting MCP 2. It's making it easier for non-developers to connect AI and data and tools, and no coding required. As I said, it's a no code, low code kind of development environment. So you don't need to write a code and it will be working fine for you. With that, this is Maruti signing out. I hope you're liking our videos, and if you really like our videos, I request you to please subscribe to our YouTube channel, share it with your friends. Maybe your colleagues and friends are going to also like our videos, so please do that thing. Also, if you have stayed with me till this end of this particular video, then I want to tell you one thing, that we are running a Black Friday discount on our website, which is skilltech.club. And if you go for a premium subscription, we are giving you 50% discounts on the premium subscription. So this is once in a year kind of an event, and I'm sure those who are really interested in learning are going to go and grab this thing. Happy Black Friday to you. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.